Well, I'll be a mummy's uncle. This old monster magazine from 1965 just happens to have a picture in it of today's monster. Shows you how hard it is to kill some monsters. 1965, and actually this monster has been around since quite a while before that. I believe he's been around since as far back as 1956. By the way, welcome to Creepy Cheapies with Dr. Lady, where we look for interesting Halloween masks. I am the Pope, and do you see this fellow right here? It's your old friend, the Shock Monster, who's been shocking people ever since the mid to late 50s, and was a sort of popular sort of general icon for monster toys and masks and collectibles during the 60s, 70s, and really even today you find Shock Monster merchandise. We've talked about him before. He was designed by Keith Ward originally for Topstone. And, well, the old Shock Monster has been going strong for decades, and there have been a bunch of different mask versions of him. This is one of them. Yes, today's mask here on Creepy Cheapies with the Pope is this version of Shock Monster from Death Studios. Now, there's no year marked on here, but I believe he came out in time for the 2015, that's 2015, Halloween season, so he's been around a little while. Now you may question the need for another Shock Monster mask because there have been about a zillion of them, but I thought this one was especially fine quality. Now at $90 or so, he just barely qualifies as a Creepy Cheapie because that's not really cheap, but it's such an excellent quality mask that I'm giving him a shout out anyway, even though he's a little pricey for cheapskate range. You see what I mean? Look what a fantastic sculpture and a fantastic paint job, and I've not touched this up or done anything to enhance it. This is right out of the package. Okay, from Death Studios. All right, the Death Studios Shock Monster, seen here, trying hard to shock you, was sculpted by the world-renowned mask artist John Smith. And yes, his name really is John Smith, and no, he's not the one from Pocahontas. Right, but John Smith, I think, outdid himself with this version of the Shock Monster. Now, usually the Shock Monster looks sort of cartoony, like that drawing that I showed you from back in the days when they used to sell masks with drawings instead of actual photographs. But he generally had kind of a rough, sketchy look to him, and even though this makes him a little more literal than that look, it's a little more organic, a little more like real flesh than he looks like he'd be in those old drawings. I'm still recommending it because it really has the character, it has the expression, it has this insane, deranged kind of energy behind it. And, well, as a sort of literalized version of the Shock Monster, I think this one works really, really well. And, of course, it's big, it's very high quality, like all the Death Studios stuff that I've seen from the last 100 years or so. And it's got a nice long neck that you can tuck into a costume if you're going to wear it, or tuck into a costume on your dummy or mannequin figure that you're going to display it on. And if I might just share something extremely silly with you, here's something kind of silly. See, the old masks had blue hair sometimes. They had blue hair. And I grew up kind of thinking the Shock Monster had blue hair, and I didn't know what he was. He wasn't from a movie or anything, but you know, many of us thought he had blue hair, and that's how we see him, but that's hard to achieve. So, of course, the edition, as it comes from Death Studio, it has nice hair, but it's sort of a salt and pepper, dark brown color. But here at Horror Hotel, being silly people, we decided a custom version was in order. So, my lovely wife, Laura, took one and specially haired it with blue hair, which I realize doesn't exactly look realistic and gives him kind of a clowny, weird funhouse effect, but that's kind of how I think of the Shock Monster, you know, not necessarily, you know, scientifically accurate and anatomically correct kind of character, you know. So I hope this looks blue because it's blue in person. It's not like fluorescent or neon blue, but it's pretty blue. It's kind of on the dark side, but it's very much like the blue hair on, very much like the color of the blue hair on the old Shock Monster masks. And you might wonder where Laura got her hands on blue hair. And no, she didn't just wait hiding in the bushes outside the 7-Eleven until an old lady with blue hair came along and like snip it off. No, it wasn't like that. This is actually a couple of rave wigs, cheap rave wigs that are bright blue. And Laura just cut the hair off of the wigs and haired the shock monster with the hair from a couple of wigs, and then kind of messed it up for this nasty, messy look. And I think that's just extremely cool, don't you? You might not like the blue hair because, again, I know it doesn't really look real. So I like the blue version, and I think I'll keep him. If you would like a blue version, I don't know what to tell you because they don't sell them like that. Laura could probably do this again, I suppose, but the typical version, the straight up version, has the dark brown hair and looks pretty fantastic too. So that pretty much wraps up the 2015 John Smith Death Studio Shock Monster. And until next time, remember, a penny saved is not worth much.